coming, everybody. Welcome to our Monday speaker series for tonight. It's November 13th, and our topic tonight is Peaceful Death Planning, Spiritual and Practical Tools to Prepare for Life's Final Transition. I am so delighted that Linda Cannon-Huffman is here to present tonight's topic. Thanks again, Linda. My name's Jason Puglisi. I'm the president and founder of the Holistic School Business. And our school employs a unique approach. Our approach is to integrate what we call and what many other coaches will call the two levels of life, the beingness of life and the doingness of life. And the beingness of life, welcome, come on in. The beingness of life essentially relates to who we be in the world. And who we be is always pure, and it ties in with our essence, our core energies. It's really those core energies that we're born with. It's really the core energies, again, that we die with. And sometimes, over the course of our conditioning in life, I think we have different levels of experience and pains and traumas and different things that we have to work through to have that, to really be connected with the essence of who we be. But in our system, we're constantly building a bridge between the beingness of life and the doingness of life. And in our particular context, we help people to build successful businesses. Healers, coaches, educators, people who are, like Linda, committed to serving others and helping others. And we have an entire curriculum that has not only a personal mastery aspect, which focuses on the beingness of life, but we have an entire business curriculum which focuses on sales and marketing and entrepreneurship and financial mastery and systems mastery and all those kinds of things. We have a number of workshops and other events that are coming up. I just want to name them real quick before we transition into your talk, Linda. On November 20th, which is 1 week from tonight, from 5 to 7 p.m., there's a celebration of gratitude and open house. It's it's deliberately the Monday before Thanksgiving. So it's going to include a guided meditation and celebration. And the guided meditation will support us in harnessing the energy of gratitude to consciously create a peaceful, happy, and joyful holiday season. That's the intention. So that way we could kind of set the tone and the energy for a joyful holiday season and not so much a stressful holiday season. I think that's the intention of that meditation. And then the following week we have Eric Noel. He's going to be here speaking on Monday night on finding and living your truth, awakening the power of your true self to live the life you want. And then the following night, which I'm really looking forward to. I love that topic. I'm really looking forward to that one. And then on November 28th, I'm going to be teaching a workshop, which is also free, open to the public. It's called Rapid Client Enrollment, a 4-week strategy to boost sales and grow your business. So that one there is going to focus on sales and marketing. So please come to any of those events. And then I'm also going to be offering a few other business building workshops. We have a full lineup of speakers on Monday nights, so we have lots of good things that are happening here at the school. So please keep coming back.
So the 4-week thing about attracting clients is free of charge? There's no charge at all for that?
There's no charge, yep. It's a free community, yep. I'm basically going to be introducing the future of our curriculum here at the school. It ties in with that particular program, that class. So that one is free. And there's another 2 free workshops. There's some cards over here, so please feel free to take one on your way out. And so there's 3 more. I did a free workshop last week, and there's another 3 that are coming up, all on Tuesday nights. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce to you Linda Cannon-Huffman. She is a conscious dying guide, and the name of her business is Peaceful Death Planning. She helps people and their families prepare for death, both on a personal or spiritual level and also on a practical level. So kind of like similar to, I think, what we do here at the school. There's a beingness component and there's a doingness component. She has in-depth training in end-of-life care. She's worked as a hospice volunteer and a death midwife and a funeral home guide. So, Linda, I'd love to turn it over to you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jason, very much for the opportunity. And that was a wonderful death meditation as well. That was very apropos to the topic tonight.
Thank you.
So welcome, and thank you all for coming out on this cold night, especially to hear someone speak about death and dying. Death and dying has to be one of Western culture's least favorite and comfortable subjects, so I commend you for your presence. Now, one thing is still certain in our presently chaotic world, and that is that we're all going to die. We're all going to die. So why wouldn't we do everything in our power to make our deaths peaceful and as easy as possible for ourselves, but also for our loved ones? You know, we often consider what makes our life good, what makes a good life, but how often do we think about what would make our death good, a good death? And I understand that death preparation can sound morbid, but the voluntary contemplation of death can reward us, I think, with this awakened realization of the exquisiteness of life, of the preciousness of life, of the blessings and the good fortune in our lives. Now, I'm not going to lie about death preparation. Some of it is pure drudgery. That's like listing your account numbers and your passwords and perhaps organizing all your financial documents, etc. Some of it can be thought-provoking and even scary, like when you consider which medical interventions you would or would not want at the end of your life. But some of them are comforting, like who would you like in the room with you when you're dying? Where would you like to die if you had the choice? There are many things that we can think about that would give us some comfort at that time. So while I cannot guarantee that if you do death preparation in depth, that you will have a peaceful life, I feel pretty confident in saying that if you do death preparation to whatever degree, it will be a more peaceful death for you and your loved ones. And I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but I hope you'll gain some helpful information, or at least some validation for the work that you have done. There are some wonderfully informative books, articles, websites out there that go into great detail about everything you can think of concerning death and dying. So I'm certainly not going to go into detail tonight. What I want to do is just bring up the topic, offer you some resources, or as a starting point, or resources that will give you a greater depth of investigation into what you do want. Because I really do believe that death preparation is a wise decision and even a privilege to be able to do it. Now, we humans have always considered death with thoughts ranging from the philosophical to the comforting to even the comical. For instance, Socrates said, "Death may be the greatest of all human blessings." Thoreau wrote to Emerson, "Death is beautiful when seen to be a law and not an accident." Mortimer Collins, who was a 19th century English poet and novelist, wrote, "Death, a friend that alone can bring the peace his treasures cannot purchase and remove the pain his physicians cannot cure." Then we have George Carlin. He explained death this way. Death is caused by swallowing small amounts of saliva over a long period of time. And then Elbert Hubbard, a 19th century American writer and philosopher, defined it this way: to die, verb, to stop sinning suddenly. So we have quite the range. But this last quote is from Jim Elliot, who was an evangelical missionary killed in Ecuador. And he said, when the time comes to die, make sure all you have to do is die. And that pretty much is a grand incentive to prepare for death. When I was a child, I remember seeing my elderly neighbor laid out in the front parlor of her beautiful old Victorian home and thought nothing of it. But that was a time when life was certainly simpler, and life and death were viewed as organic and natural. People lived in community with family and friends. They were born in that community, usually lived their whole lives in that community, and probably died in that community. Of course, we know that that is not the norm anymore. Families are spread all over the states, sometimes all over the globe. And other economic and social factors have come into play as well. One of the earliest is a result of the Civil War. At that time, embalming became the common method to preserve the bodies of soldiers for the long journey home for their burial. And of course, this in turn made the use of funeral homes popular, because now they had the ability to embalm. And it got to be that to be able to put your loved one in a beautiful casket and have a beautiful service, well, that was perhaps the best send-off that you could give them. And then medical care became more sophisticated and complicated. It expanded from home remedies and from doctors making house calls with about all the cures they had in their little black bags to this unbelievable technology that we have today, housed in these huge clinics and hospitals. And so dying became institutionalized and death became commercialized. And here we are today thinking death is the enemy and must be thwarted at all costs. Only a lot of us do not think that way, and that is not what we want. And there are ways that there are things we can do to prevent that from happening. But we have to be proactive because the medical system is set up to give us every shot at continued life, sometimes regardless of the quality of life. Death is even viewed as a failure by some in the medical community. You know, and please, if you want all the life-sustaining treatments that exist when you're dying, and who knows, we don't know, that's fine. There's no judgment meant here at whatsoever. You know, we all have a life, we all have a death, and hopefully as individuals, how that turns out is up to us. And also, preparing for death does not mean that we're inviting it. And if we're sick, it does not mean we are surrendering to it. It simply means that we're opening up space around death. And this is a space for us to see the choices that we have now before our dying makes those choices impossible for us. And it's also space to show appreciation to the ones who mean the most to us. Space to give back, to pay forward, to thank, to forgive ourselves and others, to tie up loose ends. It's a way of putting our love into words and into actions. You know, the sages tell us that to accept the reality of death is to live in celebration of our lives. So I'd like to just give you a few little suggestions, medically, legally, practically, spiritually, that hopefully these will trigger some things for you to think about. Of course, the first thing medically would be the advance directive. And that should be a discussion with your family, with your medical team. You must appoint, or you should appoint, a healthcare proxy who will make sure your wishes are followed if you are not able to at that time. And when you do the healthcare proxy, you might want to think about think seriously about who you want to do it, because sometimes, like a family member, may not be the best one if your wishes, are would be hard for them to follow. So think about that. Then, of course, you need to register them and distribute it to your doctors, your family, friends, etc. If you want to take it one step further beyond the advance directive, there is a form called a DNR COLST, which is do not resuscitate, the clinician orders for life-sustaining treatment. And this must be filled in with you and your doctor. And it is certainly put on file, and even emergency medical personnel have to follow the COLST form. And if you're really to that point where that's it, you don't really want any more done for yourself, there is Vermont approved jewelry, like this bracelet that has Do Not Resuscitate Vermont on the front. On the back is your name, your date of birth, your gender, a file number specific to you, and a telephone number. And so if you were wearing this and, say, had a heart attack out on the street, emergency personnel would have to call the number and see exactly what it is that you did want.
Can I interrupt you? The DNR, is that the same as the COLST form?
It's together. It says DNR/COLST.
Okay. And I'm curious about something else before I forget.
Sure.
You said the relatives might not be the best person to be your, what's the call?
Health care proxy.
Right. And I don't disagree with that, but who else would you choose? Just a friend who's more objective?
Right. A good friend.
Yeah.
You would certainly have to have a really good discussion in depth with them, so whomever you choose would really understand what it is that you want, and you would have to feel, comfortable that they would advocate for that for you.
Right.
And I haven't mentioned this, but by all means in this death preparation, nothing is written in stone. You should review things every year or every 2 years. Certainly review if you have a life change, like a marriage, a divorce, a birth of a child, etc., that may change your views. And if you do review and update, be sure that you redistribute as well. Now, legal, unless you have a very simple estate, I would recommend that you have a lawyer help you, because number one, they'll know all of the up-to-date laws and the tax, everything. But they can also give you some really good pointers on how to avoid probate, from your house to your bank account, etc. So that can be valuable. And also, you would probably want to have drawn up a durable power of attorney. This is a person who would take care of your financial and other affairs if you would become to the point where you couldn't take care of them yourself. And the durable power of attorney, though, ends when you die. And it would be the executor who would be the one who would continue. There's something called a memorandum of personal property that is a good way. It's not a legal instrument. You can do it yourself and file it maybe with your will. But you can put the special things that belong to you that you want to give to a certain person. This is the place you can do that. And that may save a whole lot of discord at the end if you, point out who gets what. You might want to add charitable organizations. It's a good thing to put your will and trust or whatever, all your documents in maybe a fireproof box. Just make sure that if you lock it, that someone else has a key as well as you. And there are a lot of other documents that you should gather and put in this box, like your birth certificate maybe, a marriage license, your divorce decree, prenups, copy of your social security card, all of your insurance policies, financial online banking, information about loans, stocks, bonds, information about your sources of income, retirement, boat vehicle titles. If you have a cemetery deed, you'd want it where you would be found. Any contracts or agreements that you would like to be honored. If you have a safety deposit box, the contents and the key are the same for a home safe. Got a storage facility, an account addresses, username, and passwords for like computers and cell phones and email accounts. And the list just can go on and on. One really nice thing I think to put in though is information on any heirlooms or irreplaceable items that you have, so the story will not be lost as they are handed down. And a really big thing is like your pets. Who would be the caretaker, information about them, the pet names, the vet you use, maybe even what type of food they like. So there are many, and the list can keep going. So you probably need a pretty big box to put all that in. But that would be so helpful if, for your loved ones to have all this in one place without having to really dig for it. Now, practically speaking, divest of excess. You can pretty well bet that if you don't know what to do with something, your loved ones aren't either when you're gone. So recycle what you can, donate what you can, and if you absolutely can't do either one of those, then toss it, get rid of it, so your loved ones aren't faced with a house full of things. You might want to have contact information on memberships, services you use, repair people, subscriptions, like if you have a lawn mowing service, etc. It's good to have all that written down with contacts, and also the name of the person who would contact these people as well. Now, spiritually are conscious death decisions. Some of these we don't really have a choice with, like the place of death. But you can also think about your preferable place of death. Home maybe, hospice maybe. Where in your home? The bedroom, by a special window somewhere that you can see out of. Just the place. And who would you like in the room with you? And who would you not like in the room with you? You might want to think about that as well. Is there any special music or readings that you would like? Would you like quiet? Or would you like the household to continue as it was? normally. The whole deal is trying to figure out what would need to happen for you personally to have a peaceful transition. And there are wonderful visualizations that you can use to prepare yourself to get a little closer and a little closer to death. My favorite one is walking down a big, busy highway, and there are beautiful hedges on either side, and you come to an opening in the hedge, and you go through, and now you're on a very small country road looking with beautiful trees overhanging, and it's a really nice feeling. And you walk along and you come to a gate, and beyond the gate is a stone walk and a beautiful little cottage. And you open the gate and you step in, and then you think, maybe not. You close the gate, turn around and leave. Maybe the next time you decide to go back, open the gate. You might walk down the steps or the walk, get to the steps and think, still not yet. Go back. Next time, you might go all the way up and put your hand on the door. But no. But then one time you'll open the door and you'll step in. And that's just one of the little visualizations, and certainly make your own. That's mine. Make your own as to what would be comfortable. Do you want a vigil? Would you like to be in your home and people to be able to come and see you? Tell you bye there. If you have a terminal illness, you may want to be thinking about the Act 39, the death with dignity. That is something that you need to think about well before you die, because it takes a good long time to go through the process. You might want to think about organ or tissue donation. Of course, you'd have to be in the hospital to do those. Then you hit the after-death options, and do you want a traditional burial? Just let the funeral home come and do the whole thing. That's fine. Do you want a headstone, etc.? Or would you rather be cremated? Here again, the funeral home can do all of that. You might want to think about, if you were cremated, where you would like your ashes scattered. Could have a blended funeral where the family does some of the task and the funeral home does others. Like the family could care for the body. The viewing could be at the home. You could even have a service, if you would like, in the home. But the funeral home could also be the one that comes and picks the body up and takes it to the crematorium or to the cemetery. And then nowadays we're getting where people are really more interested in a natural or a green burial. A simple green burial would be no embalming, and there is no law in Vermont that you have to be embalmed. You do not. Then you could be buried in either a shroud or a biodegradable wood or cardboard casket or basket. You would want no vault, although some cemeteries require the vault, but if they did, you could ask them to toss the lid, turn it upside down, so the casket or shroud would rest in the ground. The reason they use the vaults and the grave liners is to make the mowing easier, so the ground will not dip. You can be buried in Vermont on your own land. There are definitely parameters that you have to meet, but you definitely can be buried if it's a big enough place. You can be buried in your own backyard, so to speak, it would be good if you would check with the local health commissioner though about that. And then you come to the service. Do you want a service? Do you want a wake? Do you want a viewing? A memorial service, a celebration of life, whatever. Do you want no remembrance? And if you want any of those, then think about the details. Where do you want it? At the service at the church or the graveside or the memorial garden or in your home or what? Who would be in charge? It would be good to ask someone. Do you want to earmark money? Is there any special music you'd like for that? Special readings. Read by whom? And the last thing is like the obituary. And that is, if you did not want to write it yourself, it would be good to leave all the information in one place for the person who is going to write it. You could write it yourself, and you could write a very traditional one, or you could write one that is totally expressive of who you are. And saying that, I'd like to read you just a few of the paragraphs from my favorite obituary. This one is of Walter George Brule. Walter George Brule, Jr. of Newark and Dewey Beach is a dead person. He is no more. He is bereft of life. He is deceased. He has rung down the curtain and gone to join the choir invisible. He is expired and gone to meet his Maker. He drifted off this mortal coil Sunday, March 9, 2014 in Punta Gorda, Florida. His spirit was released from his worn-out shell of a body and is now exploring the universe. Walt was preceded in death by his tonsils and adenoids in 1935, a spinal disc in 1974, a large piece of his thyroid gland in 1988, and his prostate on March 27, 2000. And there will be no viewing, since his wife refuses to honor his request to have him standing in the corner of the room with a glass of Jack Daniels in his hands, so he would appear natural to visitors. And then he ends with this. Instead of flowers, Walt would hope that you will do an unexpected and unsolicited act of kindness for some poor, unfortunate soul in his name. So, you don't have to be totally serious, about all of this. And, let's see, I think that just about does it. So, in conclusion, the important information from all of this for you to remember is that the sincere consideration and preparation for your death will benefit not only you, but also your loved ones, and just may enhance your life, enrich it immeasurably. And I'd like to close with my favorite quote about death from the Indian poet Tagore, who wrote, "Death is not extinguishing the light, it is putting out the lamp because dawn has come." So thank you, and I wish you all a blessed life and a peaceful death. And if there are any questions, I'll attempt to answer them now.
Yeah, cremation. Now, I got the image in my head, like, on my own property, so to speak, like, being buried like an Indian, like, on a big rack.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, that has come up before.
Oh.
And I have not heard of that except, I think it was out in Colorado, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I do not know if that is possible.
Okay. I would think it wouldn't be, but.
Yeah, you would think it probably wouldn't be, but I don't know if that's ever been brought up to know whether it would be legal or not.
But what was it?
The Indian tradition
Yeah.
is, once the person is deceased, they they burn them or her on like a big bed, but raised up on stilts.
That's the same in India, isn't it? Or-
Yeah, almost, yeah.
Oh, India, I think.
I mean, I don't know if that's just Hollywood or not, I don't know.
No, that's,
Yeah, I don't think
um,
so.
what's,
think
what's,
it's real.
yeah,
I'm sure they have a name for it.
no, who was it, the Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi was,
Oh, yeah.
cremated that way, yeah.
There is another type of cremation, a green cremation, or bio-cremation, and it uses 95% water and 5% either sodium or potassium hydroxide, and heat and pressure. Depending on how much heat and pressure, though, the body can be reduced back to its elements in 3 to 12 hours. And what it remains is liquid, non-toxic liquid that's like peptides, amino acids, soaps, I forget, there's one more, but it's non-toxic and can be, put down the drain, and then the bone, which can be then dried and crushed, and that would be the ash. That is very expensive, and there are not many places that do that, but hopefully that's coming, because the the regular cremation has a really high carbon footprint. This does not.
So it's dissolving the body, basically.
It dissolves the body, yes. Mhm. It's the same process that occurs in the ground, etc., but it's just hastened.
Are you from Texas, or?
South Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Well, thank y'all for coming.
I have
Oh,
a
Jason?
question. I'm curious if you would be willing to share about how you incorporate this into your work, what you do, who would be an ideal, referral for you, or who's an ideal client for you to work with?
Well, probably someone who is terminal. It could come from the family of the person or the person themselves. And what I would do is go through this list that I've given them to the degree that they would wish. The focus certainly would be on the person and what they want out of the relationship that we would have. And my goal would be that they would have as peaceful a transition as possible, and with as much as possible their wishes. And then I would also be available to help the family if they so choose after the death, with the funeral arrangements, etc.
So is it more on a consulting level, or do you actually help to do some of these things? And make the
I could
arrangements?
actually help do some. I have been
Okay.
trained to. I know how to take care of a body. I could definitely, actually do some work. But the wonderful thing is for the family, like to take care of the body and to do as much as they can, because this gives them closure, and it gives them time to be with their loved one after they're dead, and kind of helps bring resolution and make it easier to say goodbye. So the goal would be for the family to do more of the actual work.
And how would people find you? I mean,
Well, I'm working on getting myself out there, and Jason is helping me too, and yep, so that's coming.
I see.
So thank y'all.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
That was great. Thank you. So thanks for coming, everybody.